Welcome into another episode of They've Got Now. I'm really excited to be joined today by someone who has been part of one of the breakout teams in the country this year, obviously over at Vanderbilt, as Jordyn Cambridge. Jordyn, first and foremost, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. As soon as getting to watch you guys put things together this year. I know Brene Alexander a little bit, so I've had Vanderbilt on my radar for a while, and obviously, I think a lot of people were excited about what Shea could bring to Vandy, and we've gotten to really see that play out this year. Obviously, built over the last couple of seasons, but I think I wanted to ask you first. Just with how this year has culminated and where you guys are headed, and obviously, you guys have hit a really good patch lately. How are you feeling? Like, what's this year been like for you? Kind of being able to soak all that in.
Honestly, I'm really excited. It feels good. Obviously, it's a feeling that I've yet to feel in my career here at Vanderbilt. So I'm excited that like in my last season, I'm actually like getting to feel what it's like to be a part of a winning team and to see where this can take us.
Yeah, I mean, especially as the year started off, you guys were on fire to begin the year, and obviously, SEC has been a war zone this year, particularly in the middle of the conference.
Mhm.
Getting to kind of experience the highs and lows of that. What has that been like? Because I know Shea is always preaching like process and just taking it one game at a time and really being able to just focus on what you guys are doing well, what you can improve on. So, what has that been like getting to kind of endure some of that this year?
I mean, the SEC is one of the hardest conferences, and that's just a given. So
Mhm.
like going in, you know that it's going to be a dogfight, no matter who you play. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be physical, mental battle. It's just going to be hard. And I think the difference is with this year is that we're actually competing. We're actually like fighting back. In the previous years, it was kind of like you lose games, you just go on a losing streak. The losing streak never ends. But this year, it's like we went on a 5 game losing streak, I think,
Mhm.
but we bounced back from it. Now we're on a 4 game winning streak. So like I feel like that's the biggest difference. Like we're like super confident in ourselves. Like we know that we can compete with anybody that we step up against. We're confident in that. Um, so it's more fun. It's more fun knowing that you get to go out there and you get to compete to actually win basketball games. So I'm definitely really proud of my team and like as far as we're going, and I just can't wait to see like how we keep playing as we finish up.
That makes two of us. In terms of mentioning being proud of your team as well, like uh what do you think kind of has separated that this year in terms of being able to, not kind of sit in those losses and being able to take them and move on from them? Because like you mentioned, that's been a big adjustment this year. Obviously, you guys are very talented, but what in terms of behind the scenes stuff, what do you think has been the biggest change in that?
I think the biggest change is buy-in and us really like believing in what our coaches are preaching to us. And they've been very successful in their careers. So it's us trusting that they're gonna put us in positions to be successful. But also I think it's us wanting to play for each other. So for example, this is my last year. All my teammates know that. And I feel like that's just an extra motivation for everybody to be like, okay, well, I'm playing for something that's bigger than myself. And even me, I'm playing for something that's bigger than myself. It's not just that it's my last year. It's like I get to play with my teammates for the last time. So it's like, what can I bring them? What can they bring me? What can we bring each other? And I feel like that's what is why we're being so successful, because we care so much and we want to work so hard and we want to fight. So even when we went through that slump, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. We're gonna suck forever. It was like, okay, whatever we're doing right now, it's not working. We need to figure out what is going to work, what gets us back to when we were being successful, and is how we get back to that. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of hard work and practice, and we are able to bounce back from that. But I think it's really about our culture and the way we value each other in our program.
I really love that mindset because again, like it's not easy to always find that, especially like you mentioned, like if you hit like one bump, it can really set you off. So being able to take that in
Right.
stride is huge. Mentioning, kind of nonstop work. I wanted to talk about your defense really quick. Obviously, you just got named to the Naismith DPOY watch list, two-time SEC All Defense, three-time SEC Steals leader. The list goes on. And I do just want to say to add some context as well, like you're currently eighth in the SEC in career steals, right behind Pokey Chapman. Obviously had a wonderful career at LSU, but you're ahead of like Tamika Catchings, Delisha Milton Jones, Shamika Holdsclaw. It's a pretty good list to be on. A lot of good company there. And in terms of talking about your defense too, it's not just the steals, but I wanted to ask like in terms of like finding the balance of being aggressive as a defender and being able to make plays off the ball, but still being really sound in positioning. Do you feel like you've made like big, like what has been like your biggest growth with that throughout your career? Because obviously, again, like the steals have always been there, but I think in terms of your ability to just be sound all around, that's really stuck out this year.
Honestly, I think it's mental. The physical part of the game, like me getting stills, like you said, that's just gonna come. That's just there's no technique to that. That's just kind of something that I do. I have no strategy to it, just kind of something that happens for me. But as I've gotten older and as my body has gotten like I'm not as fast as I used to be, even though people might say that I am, I'm not as fast as I used to be. So everything to me now is all about mental and like being in the right space and like watching film on my opponents and making sure that I know what they like to do so I can try to take that away as best as possible. But also being like in right positioning, like being in help side when I'm supposed to be. And if you listen to your coaches and you do the things that they ask you to do, you just end up in the right position anyway for me like to get steals and that kind of thing. But I really think like the more as I've gotten older, it's been like really mental for me.
Mhm.
So the film aspect and like just my knowledge of the game and you know I've been playing some of these people for years now. So yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, I mean, you've seen Rickea Jackson play for 5 years pretty much. So it's
Right.
like, you have like a pretty good memory bank on that, especially in like looking at film though. How do you think like you've maybe picked up things most in film? Because I feel like so much of basketball is like layering things and things start to pop up more and more and you get a different perspective on it as you see it more. So like how do you think you've maybe like what's maybe been your biggest growth or change in how you see things on film?
Well, first I think me being injured so much has allowed me to become a better film watcher.
Hmm.
um like I think I used to watch it and just kind of like watch it, just kind of like let
Yeah.
it play, but that doesn't really do much for you. But if you are able to like pick up on tendencies, even if I'm watching my own film, things I notice I'm tending to do a lot that may or may not be good. Um, just being able to pick up on those tendencies really like helps. So I'm not saying that I go and I watch every opponent that I've played 30 times because no, that's unrealistic. That doesn't happen. But like if they give us a scout and our coaches do so much work and go like, and they put so much work into our scout, so they give us a scout. I read the scout. I watch the clips. I might have caught them a couple of games before, we're in SEC, so we're all playing on the same day. I might go back and watch a game or something like that. I'm like, okay, so you really like to use your right hand, or you really like to use this hesitation move. And if I raise up, you're gonna cross over. So I know I need to sit down the whole time. So just like little stuff like that. Like I feel like the older you get, the easier it becomes, and you just like you just pick up on those things. I don't know if there's any like particular strategy that I use when I'm watching film, but as I get older, I've gotten better at it.
No, definitely, and it stands out. But going off that too, in terms of looking at the SEC, obviously the SEC, like we talked about earlier, it's been very tough this year. A lot of great players. Who is like, who would you consider your toughest assignment that you've had this year, or the player that when you think of who you've had to like maybe put the most work into a scout, or that is going to be like got to be sat down the entire game. Like, who would stand out for you?
See, that's a hard question because our defense is so it's not like
It's
you
very
guard
yeah,
here.
yeah,
It's not we don't play defense like that. It's like a collective thing. So even if I start the game guarding one person, the next possession I could be guarding like someone completely different. And that's just how we like our matchup zone or our man to man, but we switch a lot. So like it's not like you have one particular assignment. So you have to know about every person that you're guarding because I can end up on a post player and I have to guard the post player.
yeah.
We guard post players in a different way. But man, we just have so many very, very good players. Um, I'm gonna have to say probably Rickea Jackson. Honestly, she's pretty tough to guard because she's so versatile and she's so tall. And I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'9", but she's probably like 6'2", 6'3". So even like the best defense on her, she has a little bit of elevation. So but she's really tough to guard. She's a really, really great player. Obviously, going to be a top draft pick. But I probably have to give it to her. She's pretty tough to guard for
Yeah.
anyone.
No, definitely. And another name I'd have to bring up too, for somebody who especially who's popped off in SEC play as Ole Miss has gotten better, but like Markeisha Davis has been
Oh yeah.
so tough this year. She was like good last year, but she's taking like a huge leap this year. And some of the finishes she pulls out, I'm just always like, how do you even get that off? Right?
Oh,
Like,
for sure. When we played them, I just remember like her elevation when she shoots is like
yes. Like, how
immaculate.
do you even contest that?
I was like, I was guarding her and she just raised up. I'm trying to contest it. I'm like, there's no way I can even get my hand in your face. You're jumping so high. Like I can try my best to like try to contest your shot, but it's just not. So she's pretty good too.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of tough guards in the SEC.
For sure.
But backtracking a little bit, obviously you're a Tennessee kid. You came up in Nashville, a big Hooper family. So like when was maybe the first moment on court that you realized like, okay, I could be pretty good with this. Like I could really take basketball somewhere.
That's such a great question. I would have to say I was probably in um maybe like sixth grade. I want to say like before
Mm,
I was playing. I started playing like pretty competitive in fourth grade. And I've been playing my entire life, but like in fourth grade is when I was really like, okay, I'm playing on some of the top teams in Tennessee. Like there's some really good girls on my team, but I'm a kid, so I'm just having
yeah.
fun. I'm like, I'm not thinking about I don't even know what college is. I'm like, I'm not thinking about college right now. But probably in like sixth grade, I think it was like a possibility for me going to like the I played for Tennessee Flight, so
Yeah.
it's a possibility for me going to the Tennessee Flight like the next year, like for seventh grade. And I was like, okay, well, they want me to go play for them. That must mean I'm pretty good, right? Because they're like really good program. They want me to come play for them. And then when I was in seventh grade, I was playing up in high school, and my team were just really good. We were playing high schoolers and like doing really good. I'm just like, maybe I can take this somewhere. So then
I'm pretty
it's
nice with this. Yeah.
yeah. So it starts getting like pretty serious. I mean, like it was serious for me before. I mean, I was working out all the time, whatever, but I didn't really truly understand like where basketball was going to take me and like take me to where I am now. But probably around sixth, seventh grade, I was like, okay, this is serious. This is how I'm gonna, uh, make a future for myself. So
No, that's dope. What was like the first letter you got, or like the first time you got hit up by a college program and you realized like, okay, wow, this is happening. We're starting this.
I remember I don't know who it was, but they used to send like little questionnaire things, like right,
Hmm.
like it feels like it was a long time ago, like it was. They used to send like questionnaire things, and I would like get one. I'd be like, why is the school like sending me like oh wow, this is cool, this is cool. But then like as I like, and I was like pretty young. I was pretty young. Um, but then when I was in eighth grade, like they started coming like a lot, like heavy, heavy. And I got my first offer in eighth grade too.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is it was like a little overwhelming because I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is like serious. Like schools want me to like come and like be a part of their program. In eighth grade, I was what, like 13. Like I'm young for my class. So I was like 13. I'm like, I don't even know what this stuff means. I'm handing stuff to my mom. Like I don't know what this means, but I remember that it was exciting. And as I got older and I was like starting to like, understand and like what was happening around me, it was like getting pretty exciting and pretty hectic, but fun. So
Yeah, no, that's cool. And especially too, like I know like your dad played college basketball. Pretty much everybody in your family has had successful college basketball careers.
correct.
So like you had like a little bit of that some familiarity coming in too. But like when you look back on what your process was like coming up and getting to make those decisions, looking back, is there anything that you were maybe able to like help your younger siblings with, or like what was, how did that kind of change up for you?
For sure. I think with my sisters especially, I feel like I was very helpful to them. Like they, especially my youngest sister, Jelani, she
She's
was really,
tough. Yeah.
yeah, and she's really good. She's way better than I was when I was her age. So obviously everything was a lot more hectic for her than it was for me, even though it's pretty hectic for me. But I feel like just teaching her and showing her like how you communicate with coaches and setting boundaries and like that kind of thing. Um, I don't think like my mom was really instrumental in like helping me with that stuff. Like, but I wasn't really like understanding it that much. But she was my rock, so she was very helpful. So like with my sister, it's like okay, like you're in control. Like you can set time. You can call me from this time to this time. You can't call me from this time to this time, and like just doing stuff like that. But also like making sure you're being respectful, getting back to people. If you know you don't want to go to that school, there's no reason to string people along and like doing stuff like that. So I feel like I was able to learn a lot like through my process, which I feel like I taught to my younger sister, help her make her decision, obviously Ohio State. Um, but I don't know, it was a fun process. Yeah, it was just fun.
No, that's cool. Because again, like I think for a lot of people, it's like people just think of like, oh, well, you're getting recruited and blah, blah, blah. But like it can be really overwhelming, especially when like you're in your position or anybody who's, has the real opportunity to go to a Power Five school. Like you're getting hit up by a lot of people all the
For sure.
time, especially once junior year hits and the calling can start. Like I
Yeah.
know from talking to people, like they're some recruits I'm like really close with, they were like, dude, I had to like just turn off my recruitment completely at a certain point because I couldn't get schoolwork done. Like just like it was very overwhelming to be just to practice anything. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And especially like I went to Ensworth and it was like the school workload was a lot. I was in season. It was just I was playing like you're in high school, so you're playing a bunch of other different
Yeah.
sports. So I'm like, I don't have time. So when I have free time and I just want to sit down and watch TV, watch a TV show, I can't because I have to talk to these
Yeah,
coaches.
your phone. Like, yeah,
It
it's
was
like
a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
no, I can imagine. Well, obviously you made the decision to go to Vanderbilt. I know missing your junior season with a knee injury, and if I remember correctly from reading, I know a lot of wanting to go to Vandy was, the staff really stayed with you despite your injury, and when some other schools pulled their offer. But also like going off that too, like I know going to Vandy, this was very much a program that was going to be rebuilding. What made you want to? I mean, obviously your family's in Tennessee, but what made you want to go to a place where you could really rebuild and be part of that?
Um, well, throughout my entire recruiting process, I was leaning Vandy like heavy, like already, even before I got hurt. Um, and then when I did get hurt, and I called a bunch of people, and I was like, just so you know, I got hurt, and most of them, a lot of them were like, no, that's fine. But it was just something about Vanderbilt that just, I don't know, it just did it for me. It just felt right. So when I talked to Coach White, who was my coach at the time, it just felt right, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of something that was going to be built because it's easy to go somewhere that's already they already have the name, and now you just go there and now you just kind of like you're just kind of part of the program. You're just another person. Or like coming to Vanderbilt, the thought was that I was going to be, I'm going to help build this program up, no matter how long it takes. Like I know it's not going to be easy, and I know it's not going to like I'm not going to come there and I'm going to not be the all saving grace. You're going to win a national championship my first year, but I knew that it was going to be a process, and like I'm just a person that like I don't mind the process. I've been hurt a lot, so like the process is the fun part for me. So I want to go somewhere where I can be impactful. I can help build something, and in my years, I'm finally getting to do it. And the hope is that what I've done leading up to this point is going to be like in my legacy, and it's going to keep pushing Vanderbilt forward because great program, great university, and I'm just excited that I got to be a part of it and got to help get the Vanderbilt back to like where it is right now.
Definitely. And if unless I'm mistaken, I'd heard that you used to go to Vanderbilt games all the time as a kid, and they were really good in the 90s and early 2000s. So like what, did that kind of feed into it as well?
Um, for sure. I actually, as much as I might not like to say it, I actually, being in Tennessee, I was a UT fan.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until I got like a little bit older, maybe like middle school, I want to say that I really started like going to Vanderbilt games. And back when I was in middle school, elementary school age, they were good. And I used to come to the games, and this was before I was like really getting recruited. But I used to come to the game like, oh my gosh, like Christina Foggy, like now she's on our staff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm fanning right now. She's just so good. Actually, remember I went to IHOP with my mom one time, and the team was sitting in the back, and I was
Oh,
like,
that's so cool.
oh my gosh. So I went, took a picture with them, and Christina Foggy, who's like our staff, she was in the picture too. And I'm just like, this is like a full circle moment. But as I started getting older and I was like starting getting recruited, and then Vanderbilt started calling, I was like, wow, I never really took the time to even like look and think about Vanderbilt and like everything they have to offer. But when they started like recruiting me, I was like, wow, this is an amazing place. This is like education. My family is, I'm at my house right now and I'm about to go to school in a couple minutes, and it's like 12 minutes away. So like that's just like you don't pass opportunities up like that, especially for me. Like I'm big on like being with my family, staying near, not missing out on anything, and I don't ever have to miss anything because I'm right down the street. So I couldn't pass that up.
No, for sure. That's really dope that you're able to have that. And you mentioned the academics too. I think it always flies under the radar. Like Vanderbilt is a very damn good academic school, and especially too like you staying for a 6 year and being able to get your second master's. Like that's a lot of people have tried to get into the grad programs at Vanderbilt
Mhm.
and struggled to do it. So that's a huge feat in and of itself. But like, I mean, just looking at academics as a whole and what you've been able to do, like obviously, we can talk about the injuries too and like having to endure some of that. But like what you've done academically is like extremely difficult on top of everything you've done as an athlete. So in terms of like handling the rigor of like being at a school like Vanderbilt, what's been really key for you in finding balance in terms of being able to stay on top of everything you're doing studies wise, but also be the level of athlete you are?
I think first of all, my freshman year was so hard. Like it
Yeah.
was so hard, and I had like my first semester, I was struggling so bad because it was my fault though. Like we have a bunch of resources, we have study hall hours, we have people come in, they help us try to like balance everything. But I thought I could just handle everything by myself, and
Yep.
like I was like, who cares? Like whatever. I shouldn't have done that. So I try to teach our babies now, like don't do that. No, but it's just about like balancing, like figuring out what works for you. So I'm a calendar person and I
Hmm.
like to have everything on a schedule. I'm very organized in that way. So for me, I had to like sit down and plan this semester out. Like these are days we're traveling, reach out to your professor on this day. You have assignments due on this day, you have an exam, reach out to your professor on this day. So that was something that worked for me that I didn't do my first semester, but then I started to do as I like got a semester into college. And then after that, it was kind of like it was a breeze. It was like it was okay. And then after I graduated the first time, like undergrad, grad school has been so easy. Like it's been a lot less stressful, especially the program I'm in now. I just like kind of kick my feet up a little bit. It's been a lot less like work. There's not assignments that you have to turn in. It's mainly you just read and then you just talk in your class and you have like a final project at the end. So I really appreciate that for this year because it's my last year. I'm trying to focus, basketball and everything. Um, so I appreciate the fact that I'm getting my master's, but it's not stressing me out too much. So yeah,
No, I love that. And I think it's such a good point too, because I felt the same. I didn't go to, I went to Michigan State. So it's a good school. It's not
yeah,
exactly Vanderbilt, but I felt that my second semester of my freshman year, first semester freshman, I was like never a kid who had to study or anything. I was just kind of always like, I
mm-hmm.
was good. I'd do homework right before class,
Yeah,
we're chilling. Um, but I hit second semester there and I didn't end up finishing in that, but I was doing a kinesiology degree. So it was like exercise science basically,
yeah,
and I had to do I was in physics and I was like a week and a half into my first physics lecture and I had to find study hall immediately or somebody like tutoring because I was like I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm so far
yeah,
behind. This is like crazy and it's I don't know, I think it's tough because I feel like you don't always know that you have those resources right away. And I
right.
think once you find them, it's so beneficial. But at first, oh my God, it's a nightmare.
No, for sure.
So
I have the same battles. I took physics too. I was like, oh geez, I need to tutor and everything. Oh my God.
yeah, it was. Oh God, I'm so glad that I never have to look at any of those equations ever again
Exactly.
because good Lord, no. Um, but going off that too and talking more about just your career as a whole on the court, I think one of the things that stands out about you is like you're a very consistent player, and like you mentioned with the calendars, that tracks for me in terms of watching you play. Um, but I think it's a lot easier said than done to find consistency. So what do you think's been most key for you? And again, like you've had to deal with a lot of upheaval. Like COVID feels like it was a million years ago, not that long ago, but
Yeah.
also pretty long ago. But like dealing with that, dealing with injuries, how do how did you kind of establish and find a rhythm still, despite having to kind of deal with a lot of inconsistency?
Um, I think it's just the more adversity that I hit, the easier it becomes for me, honestly. Um, so having two ACLs and Achilles, COVID, that stuff's traumatic and it's hard and it's hard to like get through those things. But because I've gone through them, I think it motivates me in a way to like be consistent. Like, you gotta life still goes on. I told my
Yeah.
ACL, okay, so what? I still have to like get up every day, go to practice, do my rehab, whatever. Like life still goes on. It doesn't just stop just because you hit adversity. So I feel like that was the biggest thing for me. Like you gotta keep going, you gotta try to keep the most routine that you can. And this is me doing like off the court stuff. So I think it just translates to on the court stuff. So like I still have to get up, brush my teeth, put my clothes on, even though I can't stand up. Still gotta put my clothes on. So, you gotta I feel like that was really, really big for me. And as far as like on the court goes, like I know like the game can be taken away from you at any second. So it's about like, are you going to show up or you're not going to show up? Because you can easily not show up. But then if you actually can't play, then like, so I always want to be like, I'm going to show up because there's a time that I physically could not show up and that was killing me. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to do everything my teammates need me to do. If they need me to do a little bit more, I'm going to do that because why not?
Yeah.
So
No, I really like that perspective because it's not always easy to find, especially when you're going through that. Um, like in terms of like staying connected with the team when you can't practice or when you can't play, what kind of things were you trying to focus on and still do? Like obviously you mentioned doing rehab and everything you can to get back, but when it's during a game or when it's just times when, all right, I'm done with rehab, like what kind of things do you do to try and stay engaged? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that with injuries.
for sure. I think the main thing for me was first making sure I schedule my rehab time, not during practice. Like me and my trainer were pretty, and my coach, we were pretty like, this is how I want this to go for me. I want to be as involved in practice, even if I'm on the sideline. I want to know the plays because if my teammates come over to me and they like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go in this play, I need to know, which means I have to watch practice. So I was like, schedule my rehab time. I'll come back later in the day. I'll come early in the morning, but I have to be at practice, not to be present, I have to be on the sideline as if I was playing. So I feel like that was a key thing for me to stay engaged because now I know exactly what's happening. I know the defense, I know the offense. So it's like I'm not playing, but if I was playing, if you had thrown me in there, I would be ready. And I feel like that was the way that I could help my teammates the most. That way, if I'm talking to them, they know that I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just kind of just talking just to be heard. So that was big for me. And then obviously just trying to like stay positive, especially like last year, it was really hard. We lost 3 starters to injury. So trying to keep our heads up and stay positive and kind of like telling my teammates, some things you just can't control, but you also
Mhm.
can't dwell on the things that you can't control. So I know it was like really hard for my team. It's like, oh my gosh, everyone's getting hurt. We're hurt. But life goes on. Like I said, we have to keep playing. The basketball games are gonna come. You still have to get up, gotta lace your shoes up, gotta go out on the court, whether we're gonna be there or not. And we're not gonna be there. So what are we gonna do about it? So it's kind of like trying to keep us engaged and keep us positive and keep us focused in that way.
Definitely. Mentioning too with when Shea coming in right as COVID was going on too. Um, what was that like first getting to connect with Coach Ralph and like what was there ever an idea of like okay maybe I go to a different program or like what really kept you here? What made you excited to keep building under her?
Um, okay, first, when I was first like getting before I even got to college, I was like, things happen. Coaches
Hmm.
leave. I don't know, anything happen. Go to a school where you know you're going to be happy and you can graduate from, regardless of what happens around you. I picked Vanderbilt.
Hmm.
So when our coaches got fired, first of all, I was terrified. I was like, oh God, I don't know who is about to come in here. I am so scared. I have no idea. But I knew that I was going to be a senior. So I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm graduating from Vanderbilt at least once.
Hmm.
So no matter what happens, I'm staying here for a year and I'm going to see it through because it's always been bigger than basketball for me. So I'm like, I'm going to graduate from here. I'm going to get my degree. And then after that, we'll see what happens. And then a week after our coaches got fired, they tweet, they're like, Shea Ralph is getting hired. I'm like, Shea Ralph, like from UConn? I'm like, oh, we're good. I'm like, oh, we're good. We're good. So I remember it probably was like what, like 6 of us, 7 of us left. I remember us being like, okay, we're excited, but also we're nervous because they're like, okay, she's coming from UConn, like she's been successful, obviously, but like, what if she's mean? Like, what if she's like, oh my God, she's like a tyrant? I don't know. And she came in, we sat in the locker room, we talked to her for a while. And then honestly, she came in April. And then in May, it was just me and Brene. It was me and Brene, because we live here. And
Hmm.
everyone else went home. And that month was like so great for the both of us because we really just built a relationship with her. Like before everybody came back in June. So it was like I was in the gym. Me and Brene would go getting up there and shoot with each other and then go up to the offices and like go see her or something. Just sit there and talk. And I feel like that was really good for the start of our relationship because she learned a lot about me in that month. I learned a lot about her. We learned how we're similar. And then that year, it just, it was great. It was the best year that I've had since I've been there. Made it to WNIT. I didn't even know about the WNIT. I just thought the season ended afterwards because I was just so used to my season being over after SC tournament. But it was just great. And then ever since then, like my relationship with Coach Ralph is just rock solid. I love her to death. Love her family, everybody. I just think she was really good for the program, but she was really good for me too. And I think I've learned a lot from her, and I really, really appreciate her and everything she's done for me. So,
What do you think sets her apart? Like, what's made her such a good coach for you, and what do you think is, like, what is like day to day like with her that people maybe don't see from the outside?
I think what sets her apart is that she's so genuine, and she's the same all the time. So however you see her out on TV in the world, if you run into her at Target, it's her favorite store. If you run into her at a Target, like she's the same. It doesn't falter. She doesn't switch up. And I love the fact that she's a coach. Like I always say, like the coaches who don't yell and scream and like do all those things are honestly the scariest ones to me. So like Coach Ralph is a coach. She doesn't yell at us. She doesn't like get in your face. She's just calm. She's just calm. But like it's almost like, when you disappoint your mom or your dad and it just like hurts you. Like you're like, I'd rather you be mad at me than you be disappointed in me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what it is with Coach Ralph. Like she like has this look, or like sometimes she just like crosses her arms, or she like kneels down. I'm like, all right, guys, come on now. Like, please, like clearly we're upsetting her right now. Let's not do this. But I also think that like she just takes the time to build relationships with us. And like honestly, like especially in the college world, like that's important. Like professional might be different, but in college it's so important to like build relationships with your players, because like, they're not paying us to come play for you. So like you taking the time to get to know me and get to know my brother and my mom and my grandma, like that means a lot to me. Like I'll run through a wall for you. Like just because you asked me how was my granny's day at work, like, and you actually care. So like I feel like she does little things like that. Like she wants to invite us over, get to know us like individually, and it from the first player to the 13th player. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's the same, which I think we really value and we appreciate. And the rest of the staff is that way too. And honestly, you can't beat that. Like I know that we would do anything for our coaches, because it's like you care about us and you're making us successful. So like where everybody's winning right now. So yeah.
No, that's awesome to hear. And I agree with that so much. I am like very unused to having coaches who aren't yelling and screaming. So it's like, how do you handle this when they're like not outwardly like emotional like that? It's like, am I supposed to yell at myself? Like
Yeah.
what's happening? When did you kind of first get an inkling that this season could be a really special year for you guys?
Maybe I was just being delusional or naive, but I always knew.
Yeah.
Like after last year, and I knew, I'm like, okay, we're getting me back, we're getting Yana back, and then we got Jo out of the portal, then we got Justine out of the portal, and then when I knew about the freshmen coming in, a part of me always knew. I was like, well, part of me knew that I was going to do whatever I had to do to make sure that this was the only outcome.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know what that's going to look like in June, but I'm like, I don't care. Like I'll do whatever. I don't care what it takes. And then we went to Italy. We played a couple games in Italy. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, we obviously it's only August, so we have a lot of things to clean up, but I might be seeing a little bit. I
Yeah.
think we might be okay. And then obviously we started the season. We started winning. Like first game we were winning, but they weren't like great games. So I was like, okay, y'all, we need to get this together, because we're preparing to play in the toughest conference. So we need to get it together, let it click. So even though we were winning, it was kind of like, great, a win is a win, but like we need to build. We need to make sure that like we're getting this down. So I guess the first inkling of it was in August, and then as the season started and we were winning our first couple of games, I was like, okay, yeah, we're pretty good. And then we went to Vegas and we won both games in Vegas, but we played great. Like we played phenomenal basketball. Like as a team, defense was great. Offense was flowing. And after that, I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be the season that I want it to be. And
Yeah.
even after we went through that losing streak, I wasn't worried that everything was going to go downhill. I was like, we just need to get it together. That's all. So
Yeah, no, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because I think the Iowa State game was the first game where I was like, okay, I'm like seeing it with Vanderbilt this year.
Hmm.
Like, especially too, like Iowa State has been awesome this year. Like they went
Yeah.
kind of under the radar to start the year because Emily was out for so long, but
Right.
they're like they're tough. They're really
Yeah.
good. Their freshmen are like so nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I agree. It's been fun to see that play out. And then like you mentioned too, in terms of like that's one of the things that stuck out with Coach Ralph to me. Like obviously every coach is different and that's not bad. Like that's just, everybody's their own individual. But even watching, I think I watched the presser after the latest Tennessee game, and she
Mhm.
talked about like still like, yeah, we didn't play our best, but we still have things that we can take away from this that are going to matter moving forward. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm interested to see how this plays out because you're gonna bounce back from that. And like I think like you mentioned the calmness. It's like it's not something you get from every single coach. So it definitely stands out a lot in that.
Yeah, which I think we really appreciate. She's always, even if she gets mad at us, like one day she's not somebody that dwells on something. So we could have the worst practice ever. She'd be furious with us, give us a lecture in the circle, and then tomorrow, the next day, we don't have to come in and think about, oh my God, I wonder if she's still mad. She's like, hey guys, how are we doing today? Like, okay, yesterday was bad, but today is today. Like, there's no reason to worry about what happened yesterday. Today's today. How are we going to be better? And I think we really value that. We really appreciate that because I think it's easy for coaches, to be mad and just be so focused on like why they're mad and like what happened yesterday or what happened in the game 2 days ago. And like I've had coaches like that, but she's different, and I really appreciate that. And I think that makes us like play harder for her.
Definitely. Um, you know, as well too, she's mentioned before that she really sees you being a coach someday, if that's something you want to do. Is that something you want to do? Like, do you want to be a coach someday?
Honestly, at this point, no.
Hmm.
Me and Coach Ralph have talked about this a lot. Like I appreciate that she thinks that I'll be a good coach. I think I'd be a good coach one day too. I think me and her are pretty similar. Um, but coaching is a lot of time,
Yes.
it's a lot of patience. And all the time, I always go to her office. She's like, "What would you do if you were me?" And I said, "That's why I'm not you." So like, I don't know. So, um, at this point in my life and what I think when I'm thinking about like what's next, I don't see coaching, but I'm also not like somebody that's going to close the door on it because I know that I would be good at it. But I don't know. That's a lot of times. I don't know if I'm willing to give up.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. Understandable. It is a lot. Well, like what things do you really want to do and accomplish next? Like what are the things like obviously I know you're focused on right now, but in terms of like,
yeah,
what do you want to do with your degrees? Obviously, you got about to have two masters up in the house. Like it's
yeah.
pretty impressive. So like, what things are you thinking about?
I definitely want to stay in sports. I've recently found like a new love for like diversity, equity, inclusion work. So, and I know there's a lot of need for that, like in the sports world.
Hmm.
I actually just had a really great conversation with Coach White. Her like trying to help me, put me in contact with people who kind of doing this work already. So I want to appreciate that. Um, but I hope to like do something in that realm. But still staying around sports because basketball has been my life my entire life. So I don't want to just like go work at a desk job and like be in a cubicle or something like that. Like that's not ideal. So it'll be nice if I could stay around sports, but not necessarily as a coach. Um, so yeah. But again, I'm
Definitely.
open. I'm open to like honestly whatever comes my way. And I'm just kind of like, see where it goes, see where life takes me. Honestly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the crazy part about your 20s too, because like I'm still learning that. I'm only a couple years older than you, so I feel that all the time. I have ideas of where I want to go, but it's also like, dude, honestly, I'll just try anything because
Yeah.
why not,
Right.
So I appreciate that mindset for sure. And then the close out too, in terms of just the rest of this year, like to put a real bow on it too. Like this is the first 20-win season that Vandy has had since I believe 2013-14. It's been a
Mhm.
long minute. And I mean, I don't know what you were doing in 2013-14. I think I was a junior in high school. So we're going back a minute.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot has been accomplished, but I know you guys have a lot more that you want to keep doing. So what things are you most focused on? Like, what do you really want to accomplish the rest of this year?
Honestly, like Coach Ralph, she's like some things like I just talked about earlier, some things you can't control.
Hmm.
Um, so right now we just focus on Sunday, win the game, and then after that, the tournament, and just take it game by game. And obviously the ultimate goal is that you want to make it to the tournament. But again, that's not something that we have any say over. So just focus on like the games that we're coming into, making sure we're preparing ourselves, winning those games. And if we're taking care of our business, then hopefully we'll get the outcome that we want in the end. And that's it.
Speaking of taking care of business, Coach Ralph in a presser the other day, it was after you guys had left the presser already. But she said after winning it, she's like, I believe that's what the kids call standing on business, but I don't know what that means. I
Yeah.
laughed very hard with that, but
Yeah.
it was funny. She seems like somebody who's very relatable, but that was like the most. I was like, oh wow, she really is an adult, like kind of
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah. We're trying to keep her up on the new terms. She has a hard time with it, but we try to teach her a little bit.
yeah, got to get it. I mean, she has a young daughter. She's got to get hip to the
Exactly.
game before she grows up. So,
Exactly.
but Jordyn, I really appreciate your time. This is super dope getting to know you. I've really loved watching you this year. I'm excited to see how you guys finish out. Is there anything you want to like shout out or whatever before you out of here?
Just shout out to the Cambridge family. That's all.
Awesome. No, I'm very excited to watch the Cambridge family keep coming up. But yeah,
Thank you.
Jordyn, appreciate your time. To everyone listening, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day.